So what we do here in Ottawa is that we follow the best practice model, which is the federal framework for suicide prevention. You can see here there are three pillars where we have an opportunity to make an impact: early identification and prevention, providing intervention to address risk for suicide for those with active thoughts or those that are in crisis, and lastly, helping to support people after the loss or experience of suicide, which is known as post-vention. Going on to the next slide, this is an illustration of some of the work that takes place in Ottawa Public Health in regards to those three pillars. I won't go through all of them, but I did want to highlight Ottawa Public Health's person first language training. We know that asking for help is an important protective factor because it allows a person to receive the support when they need it. And we know that the sooner someone asks for and receives help, the better the outcome. And one significant barrier to reaching out for support is stigma. Our stigma, how you can impact change course is available on our online platform, OLearn. And it's available to all city departments and community partners at large. There are some partners who've implemented this training as part of their onboarding for staff. So Pinecrest Queensway Community Health Center, Southeast Ottawa Community Health Center, a few other partners are also in the process of implementing our online training to be recruited as part of their staff training. The second pillar, I would like to highlight suicide prevention training that we offer to agencies, particularly agencies that are responding to individuals with thoughts of suicide or those working with priority populations. So we deliver safe talk training. It's a 3.5-hour training that provides skill and knowledge on when to recognize or how to identify if someone has thoughts of suicide and how to intervene and support that person in coming into services. When we look at the post-vention pillar, we have two staff that have been trained through our partnership with the Canadian Mental Health Association, and they're trained to be part of their post-suicide support team, and so that we can support individuals in the community who have experienced a loss related to suicide, and we can help them stay safe and restore balance after suicide. I'll pause there. I will introduce Brittany to speak a little bit about stigma.
Great, and I will take us through the next portion of this presentation to go over a few educational components. Now, we understand that changing the narrative on suicide is going to require a collective shift amongst many facets in our society, and reducing the stigma around suicide and mental illness can play a huge part in that. Stigma refers to the negative attitudes or prejudice and discriminations aimed at a person or even a group of people, and it is one of the major barriers that prevents people from getting the help that they need. And we know that early identification and treatment of mental health struggles significantly increases positive outcomes and reduces hospitalizations. However, people living with mental illness and suicidal thoughts often live in isolation, and this robs people of their social support, which can create low self-esteem and a sense of hopelessness. So what can we do about this? Some of the best ways to help reduce stigma is by normalizing the conversation about mental health and about suicide. And it's as simple as encouraging people to seek the treatment when they need it. We can also make a difference by becoming attuned to the language that we use regularly and its potential impacts on those around us. Being aware of how words might have the ability to either cause harm or increase the possibility of someone feeling seen or heard. We call this using person-first language, which puts the emphasis on the person first before something that they may be experiencing or living with. So, in general, when using person-first language, we try to avoid anything that reinforces stereotypes against people with mental illness and suicidal thoughts, and also avoid anything that implies mental illness makes people either more creative, fragile, or even violent, and anything that romanticizes the idea of suicide or defines people by their medical diagnosis. We can also continue to do our part by attending educational sessions, trainings, or webinars similar to this event, which makes a huge impact on our community. As Hodan mentioned, Ottawa Public Health's newly launched stigma course called The Power of Language in Supporting Our Community is available for the general public. You may see a prompt on the chat function for a direct prompt, or please visit our website. Next slide. Now, there may have been a time in your life where you had a feeling an individual around you was struggling, and you may have identified a few changes in their behavior that caused you to question if this person was doing well. People who are dying or thinking of dying by suicide often give out some clues or invitations that they need some support. And some clues can be really subtle, while others can be a little bit more obvious. Some behaviors to look out for may include seeing the individual have a sudden change in their mood, such as suddenly seeing a very cheerful and calm demeanor after a period of despair. Isolation is unfortunately very common amongst those living with mental illness and those who have a will to end their lives. They may express a sense of hopelessness and helplessness, or even a wish to die. They may have increased substance use or withdraw from people and activities that they once enjoyed. They may also give away prized possession in preparation for their death, such as changing a will or paying off their debts. Now, please remember that this is not an exhaustive list, but could be some of the things that you notice that make you wonder whether or not somebody is considering suicide. Next slide. If you find yourself in a conversation with someone, you notice any of the signs we just spoke about, or other signs that cause you to have some concerns that make you wonder about suicide, simply ask about it. When asking, you can explain the specific signs that you've noticed that have caused you to have some concerns and ask them directly if they're having thoughts of suicide. Now, that could sound something like, hey, I've noticed that you've been giving away a lot of your personal items that used to mean a lot to you. And sometimes when people do this, they might be having thoughts of suicide. Are you having thoughts of suicide? And if the person says yes, in fact they are, you can then support and connect them to the appropriate resource. The important thing is, if you have reason to believe that suicide might be of concern, don't hesitate to address it directly and in a clear fashion. And remember, if you're wondering about it, ask about it. There's a common misconception out in the community. Some people think that if you ask somebody about suicide, they can simply catch suicide. And we're here to tell you that that is not a myth. We know that suicidal tendencies are very complex and are tied to a combination of factors that cannot be simply caught by being asked the question. In fact, talking openly and asking directly about suicide can break the silence and can often be the first step towards getting those who are struggling the help that they need. So as I mentioned, when we're asking somebody about suicide, it's really important to be direct and to not avoid the question. If you don't ask directly, you won't be able to find out if they're having thoughts of suicide. There can be many misleading ways of asking the question, which can ultimately lead you to not being able to support the person appropriately. The most appropriate and direct ways to ask about somebody's suicidality is indicated on the cloud that you see on the right side of your screen. So one of the first ones is simply, are you having thoughts of suicide? This is an appropriate way to ask. It is direct and it is straight to the point. The second is, are you thinking of killing yourself? This is also an appropriate way to ask. It is straight to the point and it cannot be misleading. And alternatively, another way is to say, are you thinking of giving up your life? We know that there might be some cultures that would ask differently about suicide than what we've mentioned, such as Indigenous populations using the term giving up your life as an appropriate way to ask somebody about their suicidality. So the idea behind asking the question is that it has to be very direct and that it cannot be misleading. Additionally, we need to be empathetic. Show the individual that you care about them and their well-being. You could say, I'm here to listen and I want to support you. And not to be judgmental. We talked about reducing the stigma by normalizing that conversation, and that starts right here in these small moments. Let them know that it's okay to feel this way and that you're here to help them. And then we need to listen actively. Hear what the individual has to say without interrupting them and give them your full attention. Be sure to validate their experiences. You can say things like, it sounds like you're going through a really difficult time. I'm here to listen. I want to support you. And then in this particular stage, being aware of your body language is very important. You don't want to make it look like you're busy or rushing. So for example, if you're glancing down at your watch while this individual is trying to disclose some very important information to you, it might indicate to that person that we're too busy or that we're not taking them seriously. So really give them your full attention so that they can feel comfortable opening up to you. And lastly, know your resources. Be familiar with the resources that are available in your community, ideally resources that are easily accessible, free, and available 24/7. So as I mentioned, resources are an important component to supporting someone in need. This slide shows you a few different resources that you can access if ever you find yourself supporting somebody in need. Our friends at 988 and the Distress Center spoke to us about the incredible services that they offer, and they are available 24 hours and 7 days a week for anyone in need. We are also so fortunate in Ottawa to have Access MHA and One Call, One Click, whose expert staff directly match people with trained mental health professionals. We also have Counseling Connect and the walk-in counseling clinics, which are other great services that offer quick, no-cost, short-term counseling services for a variety of different languages. And last but not least, we at Ottawa Public Health have created a resource list with these services as well as many others for easy reference. You could print this resource and keep it on you if ever you're in need. And we want to encourage you to please visit our Ottawa Public Health website for more comprehensive list of the resources that we've spoken about today and so many more. This is where our team ensures that we have the most up-to-date resources and supports. Try using the QR code that you see on your screen to prompt you directly to our webpage. If you're interested in staying up to date with our current statistics, please visit our community dashboard for more information on statistics on suicide. And keep in mind that anyone can have thoughts of suicide, and any opportunity to connect someone to resources is a good one. Lastly, I wanted to mention that we have proudly created a new category for suicide prevention on our mental health page. We are happy to announce a successful soft launch was hosted on Monday, and the site will be fully live Thursday. There is a vast amount of information, including all of the Suicide Prevention Ottawa's content. Take some time and learn more about the organization, some know what to do guides, additional resources, as well as postvention and media guideline information. Now that concludes the Ottawa Public Health portion of this presentation. I want to thank you for your attention. Next up, I would like to share with you the information from the Canadian Mental Health Association, who are also members of the Suicide Prevention Ottawa network, and they have a team called the Suicide Support Team. As such, their aim is to restore balance for community members who have been impacted by suicide. They are a small but mighty team of individuals who are trained experts in supporting the grieving process after a suicide. Now let's take some time to listen to a video on what this team does in more detail.
And affects the whole community. It's a team of people that can help. The Post-Suicide Support Team is a community-based team of people. It consists of professionals from the health, mental health, and social service sectors. The team can help you and others affected by the loss of someone to suicide. This team can conduct a free support session to anyone other than family members. Some groups that can use the team are neighbors, friends, teammates, colleagues, classmates, service providers, and community groups. For each death by suicide, many survivors are left behind. Often, these survivors will experience a wide range of emotions. Different responses are natural. They can include feelings of shock, confusion, guilt, anger, trouble sleeping, lack of appetite, headache, and isolation. It's important to talk about it. The PSST will come to you to conduct a session as soon as possible to provide a safe and private space for the group. The session allows the group to express how they feel, honor the person who died, enhance strength and resiliency, identify those who are struggling to cope, and link them to resources in the Ottawa area. What you are going through may be hard, but you don't have to go through it alone. To book a session or to learn more about the PSST, contact the Canadian Mental Health Association. If you need help right now, please call.
So if you're interested to see if a support session with the Post-Suicide Support Team is right for you, please call the number you see on your screen, and the Canadian Mental Health Association worker will be happy to provide you with more information on your next steps. And for any family member looking for supports, please call the bereaved families. This service can be reached by calling the Canadian Mental Health Association as well. Next up, we will hear from another member of the Suicide Prevention Ottawa Network and our friends at Pleo about an incredible project for supporting youth who live with suicidality. Please join me in welcoming Bonnie and Linda.
Hello, thank you, Brittany, and thank you to Suicide Prevention Ottawa and Health for this opportunity to participate in the World Suicide Prevention Day. And with today's theme of changing the narrative on suicide, we are here from Pleo, Parents Lifeline, to share with you a new program called YNST, Youth Nominated Support Team Intervention. The following project represents a joint collaboration between the Royal, various community agencies represented by Suicide Prevention Ottawa, and individuals with lived experience to perform evident research that translates to an evidence-based youth suicide prevention intervention at the Royal and in the community. Suicide Prevention Ottawa has successfully implemented suicide prevention interventions and their sustainability since 1989. The SPO, Suicide Prevention Ottawa Coordinating Committee, includes leaders from Ottawa Public Health, CMHA, CHEO, the Royal, Youth Services Bureau, Pleo, Ottawa Police Services, Briere, and United Way of Eastern Ontario, and people with lived and living experience.
Next slide. So the YNST program is geared to young people that are vulnerable to suicide. It's an evidence-based program. We help the youth choose 4 supporters, and then we help the supporters, we teach the supporters how to support the child or the youth moving forward. The youth nominated support intervention, is based on randomized clinical trials demonstrating acute 6-week reduction in suicide ideation, in youth, discharge from inpatient suicide, greater treatment adherence, and significantly lower mortality at the 14-year rate.
Suicide Prevention Ottawa, SPO, and YNST, Youth Nominated Support Team. So SPO is implementing and scaling YNST to serve suicidal youth and their supporters in Ottawa. Pleo, Parents Lifeline of Eastern Ontario, where both Linda and I are from, has taken point on running and implementing the YNST. SPO team has undergone numerous consultations with the YNST creator, and Pleo as well have both together completed YNST training delivered by the intervention creator, Dr. Cheryl King from the University of Michigan. SPO received a Bell Let's Talk award to facilitate and fund a pilot implementation that Pleo had participated in running to support 12 youth. We have partnered with the Royal's Youth Inpatient and Outpatient programs and Queensway Carleton Hospital's inpatient unit, and so far in the past 3 years, 30 youth have been supported. Currently, this is the only referral path for this program, but hopefully with future funding, more youth can be supported. And I want to talk a little bit more about that at the end of the of our slides, of how you in the public or anybody can help contribute to this. And the Royal Foundation the Royal Foundation has raised additional funds to support additional youth, and the fundraiser is coming up in October.
YNST overview, what we do. You want to the next slide, please? There it is. So these youth are in or outpatient at the hospitals. Their social worker will approach them and they'll ask them the following question: in the past 4 weeks, have you thought seriously about killing yourself? If the youth says yes to that, there's 3 more questions. Did you think about killing yourself many times in the past 4 weeks? Did you plan exactly how you would kill yourself? And in the past month, have you tried to kill yourself? Next slide. Yeah. If the youth said yes to those questions, a referral with the youth's approval is sent to Pleo. we coach the youth to help them choose their team of supporters, up to 4 adults. And we do a few things with them in that meeting. We do the coaching, we ask them 15 questions on suicide, and then we ask them their concerns in life and what they like to do, their interests. Next slide. It's
And
not
then,
coming up.
yeah,
There it is.
then, okay, so we at Pleo are caregivers with lived experience, and we're, I just don't see my slide. We are caregivers, and actually we're parents with lived experience. So we support parents on their journey, supporting their youth with any kind of mental health or addiction issue. And we work with them as a whole. But with the YNST program, we have a very specific role. And that is in our professional role, navigating community mental health services and providing peer support. We have ongoing support for this new support team for the youth. So we at Pleo, Linda and I will support the support team that is working with the youth and meeting with them every week to do specific fun things, and we will support that team.
So Dr. Zach Kaminsky from the Royal is the researcher, and he's compiled all these slides. He can't be here today, so I'm going to try and read them for you. This first slide here is a total of all 15 questions that we asked the youth. So you can see on the left-hand side, the score, final score is much higher in red than on the right where it's green. And there's a significant decrease.
In just 6 weeks.
In 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an example. The questions are actually statements, and the youth answers one of 6 or 7 answers almost every day, a couple of times a week, all the way down to I've never had this thought before. So we go through them. So this is one example. The statement is, I wished I were dead. So you can see again the red on the baseline. It's very, very high. And within 6 weeks, it's dropped quite significantly. It's very exciting to watch this proceed.
And that's just half the program because it's 12 weeks long. So in just half the time, there's already difference, positive difference.
Next slide. So this one is, I thought about killing myself. And again, these are averages, all averages, but the red is much higher. And 6 weeks later, there's been another significant decrease. There's a few of these slides. Do you want to do the next one? I thought about how I would kill myself. That was varied with the baseline, but still as a drop. And 6 weeks later, there's still quite a drop, and nobody's up near the top. So it's kind of exciting. And I thought that no one cared if I lived or died. Again, there is a drop with the averages.
When we do these questions at the beginning, when we call the youth and we talk to the youth, when they have accepted this program, we first call the youth and we go through these questions. And like Linda said, find out their interests, their concerns, and their treatment program. And from there, we get to know them a little bit. We don't get to really chat with them very long, but just that one time. And then again, in 6 weeks, we get to do this again with them. So this is part of the whole data collecting that is done, so we can measure. So how it's done. Okay, so the role of the YNST support persons or caring adult, we also call them team members. Like if it's the youth is Johnny, we call them Team Johnny. We also call them allies, but they are the support team. And the youth picks up to 4 people. So what happens at that point, and they've accepted, they've received a note telling them what a privilege this is and to be nominated, the youth would have probably mentioned it to them that they would like to do this program and that they have put their name forward as a support person. So at this point, we have an hour-long orientation and training with the youth, or sorry, with the team, and we have we tell them part of their role, well, not part of their main role, is to have meaningful, supportive contact with the youth every week. So they listen, they connect, provide emotional support, they encourage follow through with recommended treatments, support positive, healthy behavioral choices, and also if they're at a low point, we either help them reach out to get the help if they are showing warning signs of being a suicidal risk, or we can call with them or call for them. Again, we don't, we have those conversations every week so that hopefully it's, if it's happening, we're catching it right at the beginning. And so the team also participates every week with weekly check-ins with Linda and I to obtain support, ask questions, receive additional tailored resource materials. And during actually our very beginning meeting, though, I forgot. During our very beginning, we get to find out what their, we do a little thing to find out what the team knows about the youth as far as their interests and their their concerns or problems, and if they're aware of their diagnoses and treatment. So it's interesting.
So the role of the caring adults, they're never expected to be mental health professionals or function as such. They are not responsible for the youth's behaviors and choices, but they are encouraged to reach out to healthcare professionals if we're concerned for the youth's safety. Thanks.
So the role of the YNST family peer supporters. So our role is to facilitate the youth nominations of adult support persons. We get everything organized and ready. We conduct the support persons orientation and training sessions. We provide tailored education and resources. And we make sure that the information we're sharing is tailored to the youth that they are supporting. And if they have questions, again, we're not professional counselors. We will make sure we get the proper answers to their questions. We will make sure we get the proper information to them. We conduct weekly check-ins for 12 weeks with the support team, and we provide support, addressing questions, sharing additional resources as appropriate. On average, more than 3 support persons participated for each youth. The support persons have many different relationships to the youth. They can be parents, guardians, grandparents, aunts, uncles, older cousins, siblings, teachers, school counselors, religious leaders, group leaders, or friends of the family. They can be really anybody as long as they're over 18 and the youth feels connected to them and they can really trust them and they feel they are they have their health their in best interest. And I think it's really important that we share with the youth when we talk to them at that very beginning stage that if their person that they nominated is not able to do it, that it has no reflection on the youth. We make sure the youth is really secure in knowing that it had nothing negative to do with them. It could be for many different reasons. It could be they're stretched with their own life, they or for whatever reason, but we reinforce to the youth that that sometimes some people can't always participate. So just to be prepared for that.
YNST is associated with a lower mortality, including lower mortality due to self-injury, still relevant after a 14-year follow-up study. That part really excites me. So YNST is a promising adjunctive intervention for youth at risk for self-harmful behavior.
All right, so I did talk earlier about how the Royal Foundation has raised additional funds, and every time they raise these funds, we are able to support more youth. So something that's coming up is the Ottawa Blues for Youth, thanks to Anita Manley. This is her brainchild, and she's a volunteer with the Royal Foundation. And this has gone on for a couple of years, the Saturday night one, October 19. But this is a fantastic event for adults. Now something brand new, and the money is going straight to YNST on the Sunday, is open to all ages at Irene's Pub, 885 Bank Street, Sunday, October 20th. And again, this goes directly to YNST, and we can help a lot more youth. With the pathway being only through the two places right now, the more funds that are raised, and the more perhaps maybe there's other hospitals or other medical places that can come on board with this program. And again, on behalf of Linda and I from Pleo, thank you so much for letting us share this. Such a great program. And if you have any more questions, you can reach out to Pleo and ask for us, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both, Bonnie and Linda. Hearing the positive impacts that the Youth Nominated Support Team program is having on youth in our community is extremely heartwarming and shows that there is hope in our community. Now, this concludes our event today, and I would like to thank all of our presenters for sharing the amazing work that they do, as well as thank you all who have joined us virtually. We hope that this has been insightful and that the community can continue to change the narrative on suicide. Thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.